Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Bank Shot Breakdown. We're going to go over 5 college basketball games for Friday, November 8th, 2024. If you like what you see, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my college basketball Bank Shot best bet, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. And don't forget about that season pass, which is right now for a opening week special price, which is going to end on November 11th. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Friday in college basketball. First up, it's VCU and Boston College. This one's 6 p.m. Eastern on CBS Sports Network. It's a neutral site game in Maryland, a part of the Veterans Classic. And we do see VCU as quite a significant favorite in this game, and I think it makes sense. I think this is going to be a pretty big down year for Boston College. They did lose a lot of production from last year's team. And you look at their first game against Citadel, which was ranked 339th in KenPom going into that one. It was only a 9-point win for the BC Eagles, and really, not a great offensive showing in that one. Just 44% from 2-point range, 28% from 3. They did get some good free throw opportunities, 28 free throws and 14 offensive rebounds, but 14 turnovers to go with it against a not so great Citadel defense. Now you face VCU, and a team last year that was top 50 in adjusted defensive efficiency, good defensive rebounding team, so they should be able to hold Boston College to 1 shot per trip. I think VCU's defense shines in this game, but I also think their offense is a big day. And we saw in their opener, on opening night on Monday, 84-65 win over Bellarmine. Bellarmine may be in the 300 in KenPom, but they are still a team. Like I've mentioned, those ASUN teams can be tricky sometimes. So I do think that was an impressive victory for VCU, and I look for them to win this game, cover the number, and win comfortably. So give me VCU. I'll lay the points. Next up, it's a great matchup in non-conference basketball. A pair of blue bloods going at it in North Carolina and Kansas. 2 top 10 teams as well, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. And it's also a rematch of the 2022 National Championship game, which was won by Kansas by 3 points. But in this game, we see Kansas as a pretty sizable favorite. It is a home game, so it does make sense. But the total's also in the mid-150s, which, it's understandable because these are 2 strong offenses. But I actually like the under in this game. I think this is going to be a tight defensive battle. When you look at Kansas in their opener against Howard, yes, they put up 87 points, which you can't complain about that, but I thought it was a little bit too reliant on making tough shots, and they were 50% from 3-point range, 68% from 2, but they only had 5 offensive rebounds in that game. They turned the ball over 14 times. I didn't think it was the best offensive showing, and I expect a much tougher matchup here against North Carolina, a team I think is going to be strong defensively overall this season. On the flip side, you got North Carolina. They had a strong day against Elon in their opener, scoring 90 points. But Kansas, while last year was a down year for the Jayhawks standards, they were a 4 seed going into the tournament. They still were top 20 in adjusted defensive efficiency. They're a strong defensive rebounding team. So North Carolina, which does look to get those second chance looks, probably not going to get too many of them in a game like this, especially on the road. So I think we see a little bit more of a defensive battle. I think the pace of play slows down a little bit more than what we're used to seeing from these 2 teams. And I like the under. This total's really steep. We have some wiggle room here. It doesn't have to be a game scored in the 60s. We can still see both teams in the 70s and go well under this number. So give me the under in North Carolina, Kansas. Next up, it's South Florida and Charleston. This one's going to be 7 p.m. Eastern on Flow Sports. Now, we took the Florida Gators over the South Florida Bulls on opening night, and we laid the points with Florida. Ended up being a 15-point win. And the thing that really concerns me with South Florida in this game and going forward is in that first matchup, they lost by 15 despite shooting 48% from 3-point range. They were 13 of 27 from 3, while the Gators were only 5 of 26 from 3-point range, 19%. If you're scoring and you're hitting all those threes and still losing by double digits and giving up just under 100 points, I do think it's going to be tough going forward. And when we saw the Gators defense sharpen up and start to force some tough shots, South Florida just couldn't get it done down the stretch. And I worry about that here because Charleston's a tough team. This is a solid mid-major program led by Chris Mack, who we know that Chris Mack teams play at their best when they're defending the perimeter. When you look at the teams that he had with Louisville, while it wasn't the best run of teams, it's still, you look at most of those teams, top 50, top 25 in 3-point defense, and I think that's going to be the key here. I expect Charleston to defend the perimeter very well, like they did in their season opener against Southern Illinois. Southern Illinois, a team that's going to utilize their 3-point jumpers. They took 21 of them in that game, but only made 5 at a 24% rate. If South Florida is anywhere near 25 or 30% even in this game from the perimeter, I think it's going to be an ugly result for them because I don't really trust their defense. So give me Charleston in this game. I like them at home. Next up, we see Texas A&M Commerce taking on Texas A&M, the Aggies. This one's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. Now, Commerce goes into Friday as one of the rare teams that have already played 2 games this week, and both of those games were on the road. Both of those ended up being straight-up losses, but both of those were covers against the spread, which is what we care about. A 22-point loss is around a 30-point dog against Iowa, and then against South Dakota, I think they were getting 10.5 points. They lost that game by 8. Now, their defense didn't fare too well in either of those games, giving up 89 and 91 respectively. Their offense was making some tough shots, but still, so far to start the year, 359th in adjusted offensive efficiency. Offense was an issue for the Lions last year. They were ranked 342nd by the end of the season in adjusted offensive efficiency. And we saw, these two, this is a rematch from last year's game, which opened the season for Commerce and ended up being a 78-46 win for Texas A&M, the Aggies. And I could see a similar scoreline, but I really think it's going to be a bounce-back spot for the Aggies after that upset loss at UCF. We took UCF in that game, and they won the game outright. But I still think the Aggies are a very tough team in the SEC. I mentioned that they scheduled a very tough non-conference schedule. So I also think by the end of the season, that loss at UCF is not going to be as bad as it may be on paper right now. I think UCF is underrated and a team to watch out for in the Big 12. But the Aggies, I just think on both sides of the ball have a big advantage. The fact that this is a third straight true road game for Commerce in Iowa, in South Dakota, now back in Texas with the game, a day off in between all those games. It's a tough spot here situationally. So give me Texas A&M, the Aggies. I'm going to lay the points in this one. Next up, the final game we're to talk about for the Friday card in college basketball. It's New Mexico and UCLA. This one 11 p.m. Eastern on CBS Sports Network. Now, last year and in recent years, we've talked about how New Mexico has a great home court advantage. They play really well in the pit, and they've done well both straight up and against the spread in recent years in home games, but not so much on the road. They've not been a great true road team. We saw them lose a majority of their games in true road games last year. However, in neutral site games, New Mexico is actually quite successful. And in fact, they in non-conference play in the regular season, they swept all their neutral site games. And granted, against some teams maybe they're better than, like Toledo, Rice, Pepperdine, and Santa Clara, but all wins, and they scored a ton of points in those games. Then you go to the Mountain West Conference Tournament, all neutral site games in those tournaments, and they swept that. They won the Mountain West and made it to the NCAA tournament as an 11 seed. They took down Air Force, Boise State, Colorado State, and San Diego State, some tough teams in neutral site games, and really none of those were really that close. I mean, the championship was a 7-point win for the Lobos, so I'm not too worried about backing them in a neutral site spot. They're an experienced team, and a lot of their players are upperclassmen, especially in the starting lineup. And UCLA played well in their opener, 85-50 final score over Rider, a 35-point win, but this was a team that last year really struggled offensively. They were 152nd in adjusted offensive efficiency, which is not anywhere near the standards that UCLA is expecting. They really struggled to shoot the ball both from three-point range and especially from two-point range. And while this is a new-look roster and they should be a lot better and probably close to the top 50 or top 25 even in offensive efficiency, I think it takes a little bit to get going here. And, Ryder's one thing, but playing a New Mexico defense really improved last year. I think it's going to cause some fits for the Bruins in this game, and especially at a neutral site. I think we see a more low-scoring game, and I think it benefits the underdog right now. So I think the Lobos are a live dog in this game. I lean towards the under, but give me New Mexico plus the points. And that's it. Those are the games for Friday in college hoops. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and put those college basketball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.